Krylon 7 was not a world of warriors. Its greatest boast was the Crystal Market, a sprawling trade bazaar lit by floating lanterns and fragments of luminous stone. Children chased each other between the stalls, merchants bickered in 5 languages, and the planetary defense grid, rarely used, hummed quietly overhead. For centuries, Krylon 7 had believed in peace, and for centuries peace had believed in them. Tonight, both were proven wrong. The first strike. The sky tore open without warning, split by a blade of black light. Sensors failed. Air cracked and shimmered. Every screen in the capital flickered, then went dead. The defense grid, built with council pride and hubris, simply shut down. Then the Obsidian Dominion arrived. Their ships didn't glide. They fell, as if gravity itself were dragging them down from some silent, ancient height. Each vessel was a jagged, polished void that devoured the starlight around it. And they fired before anyone even fully understood what they were. Crystalline towers shattered. Shield bunkers vaporized. Whole districts turned to reflective glass as energy beams swept across the landscape. Screams echoed through the marketplace as the ground shook and buildings collapsed. Civilians ran. Soldiers fled to weapon lockers that no longer opened. There was no battle. There was only annihilation. Inside the communications spire, Lieutenant Rylus Vorn, shift commander of the communications spire, stared at the tactical display in disbelief. Red markers spread across the moon's surface like an infection. All planetary shields are down, he stammered. Command bunkers offline. Primary grid unresponsive. His second-in-command whispered, "Who are they? Pirates? Raiders?" Rylus swallowed. Pirates don't field capital ships the size of mountains. The spire shook as a blast hit nearby. Lights failed. Backup systems stuttered to life, barely. A single surviving orbital camera flickered on. Rylus saw it, the emblem carved onto the machine fleet. A circle split by a descending blade of obsidian. His blood ran cold. "That's impossible," the officer beside him murmured. "They were wiped out during the stellar purge ages ago." Rylus shook his head. "No. They were sleeping. Desperate measures." Explosions rocked the tower. Panels fell from the ceiling. Officers clung to railings as another shockwave hit. Rylus slammed his hand onto the broadcast console. "We need to send a distress signal. Council channels, sector-wide." "We already sent them," someone cried. "No one is answering." Of course not. The Council feared the Dominion more than anything. If those machine warlords had truly returned, the other empires would hide behind treaties, committees, and excuses. Krylon 7 would die alone. Unless someone else heard them. Someone who didn't run from monsters. Someone the Dominion had never dared to face. A dangerous idea. A junior tech, barely more than a cadet, turned toward Rylus with wide, terrified eyes. "Sir, the humans." Rylus froze. "What about them?" "We could transmit to Terra. Their encrypted relay network is still within our range." A murmur spread through the surviving officers. The humans. Warborn. Deathworlders. The only species the Dominion had never attempted to conquer, because legends whispered that when machines fought humans, the machines lost. The Council always warned. Never engage Terran military power without full consensus. But Krylon 7 was dying. And the Council wasn't coming. Rylus drew a trembling breath. "Route the signal," he ordered. "All power to long-range transmission." "But sir," another officer said, "if Terra intervenes, the Council will." Rylus slammed his fist onto the console, silencing him. "The Council isn't here," he roared. "Humanity might be." The last broadcast. The Dominion's forces were already landing outside the spire. Black-armored constructs marched through the streets without emotion, without hesitation, without mercy. The tower shook violently. The outer walls began to fracture. Rylus pressed transmit. A blue light flared. He spoke into the microphone, voice steady despite the chaos behind him. To any Terran vessel receiving this is Krylon 7. We are under attack by the Obsidian Dominion. We will not survive. Please, if you can hear us, help us. The floor collapsed. Officers screamed as the tower tilted. The transmission cut off mid-sentence. The screen went black. The spire fell. Far beyond the stars. Terra heard. A tiny indicator light blinked on a forgotten console in a Terran deep space monitoring station. Signal priority, red sigma. Source, outsector, non-Terran. Content, distress call, extinction level. The AI monitoring node paused for exactly 0.0008 seconds. Then it triggered the alarm reserved for only one thing. A threat worthy of waking the Terran Midnight Fleet. The alarm ripped through the Terran Directorate Command spire like a blade of lightning. Red strobes lit the hallways. Ultra-steel blast shutters slammed down. Automated defense turrets deployed from the walls, scanning for intruders that weren't there. Because this alarm was not for a breach. It was for war. The midnight signal. Deep in the core of the command spire, the ancient console that had received the Krylon 7 distress call activated a chain reaction of encrypted triggers. AI nodes awakened from dormant cycles. Orbital networks realigned. Long-range telescopes pivoted toward the source system. In the war room, holographic displays ignited with data. Energy signatures, confirmed. Obsidian Dominion architecture, confirmed. Civilian casualties, catastrophic. Estimated survival time, near zero. The doors hissed open as Admiral Aria Valentine strode in, coat sweeping behind her like a banner of storm clouds. Her hair, iron gray and tied back sharply, matched her eyes, cold, clear, and dangerous. "Report," she commanded. A tactical officer swallowed. "The signal matches all known patterns of Dominion activity." "You're telling me," Valentine said slowly, "a machine empire dead for 100,000 years just wiped out a moon?" "Yes, ma'am." Valentine exhaled through her nose. "Wake the fleet." The Terran debate. Within minutes, the Directorate Council assembled, 12 representatives, each a high-ranking diplomat or strategist. And each instantly began to argue. "We cannot respond to an alien distress call," snarled Counselor Jeston. "This is Council space. If we enter the fray, they will accuse us of militaristic overreach again." Counselor Sela folded her hands. "We propose negotiation with the Dominion. A diplomatic envoy. Send whoever you want," Valentine cut in. "But the Dominion doesn't negotiate. They harvest. We have no proof." Jeston spat. The hologram of Krylon 7's destruction flickered above the table. Cities turned to shimmering black glass. "Here's your proof," Valentine said. Silence. A few counselors looked sick. Others looked afraid. Most looked unwilling. "We cannot sanction military action," Jeston said finally. "Not without a council quorum." "Then don't sanction it," Valentine replied, turning away. "But humanity will not stand by while an entire sector burns." "Admiral!" Jeston barked. "If you proceed, you will violate interstellar law." Valentine looked back at him with a flat, lethal calm. "And if we don't proceed, trillions will die." She activated her wrist console and issued an order reserved for only one type of crisis. Authorization code, Valentine Blackstar. Deploy the Midnight Fleet. The alarms changed pitch. The Midnight Fleet awakens. In orbit around Earth, the shipyards lit up. Massive gantries released magnetic clamp. Engines the size of office buildings roared to life. One by one, humanity's most dangerous warships emerged from their cradles. TDS Revenant Command Dreadnought. A 90-kilometer-long fortress of obsidian alloy plating and particle beam arrays. Entire civilizations had surrendered at the sight of its silhouette. Eclipse-class stealth cruisers. Black ships that bent light around themselves, dissolving into shadow. Designed to end wars before enemies even realized they'd begun. Hydra interceptor swarms. Autonomous strike craft whose AI-driven formations could cut apart enemy fleets like surgical razors. Solstice batteries. Mobile weapons platforms capable of firing solar lance beams that could pierce a moon's crust. Across the fleet, crews sprinted to stations. Across Earth, families listened to the activation sirens and prayed. Across human space, transmission relays flashed a single message. Midnight Fleet. Deployment imminent. The Admiral's oath. Valentine stood on the command bridge of the Revenant, looking out across the Armada now aligning into battle formation. Her XO approached. Coordinates for Krylon 7 are locked. Estimated jump time, 19 minutes. And civilian survivors? Valentine asked quietly. Unknown. But if any are left, they won't last long. She nodded once. Then she turned toward the bridge crew and spoke loud enough for every officer to hear. Every species in the galaxy fears the Obsidian Dominion, she said. But they forgot something. She stepped forward, eyes burning with a fire that could scorch stars. They forgot us. We are humanity. We hold the line. And today, her voice echoed across the entire fleet. We answer the call. Into ripspace. Massive FTL drives spun up, glowing like newborn stars. The fleet aligned. The jump countdown began. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The Midnight Fleet vanished in a silent eruption of ripspace light. Terra's deadliest warships were on the move. And for the first time in 100 millennia, the Obsidian Dominion would learn fear. Ripspace peeled open like a torn veil, and the Midnight Fleet emerged into the Krylon system. What greeted them was not a battlefield. It was a graveyard. The ruins of Krylon 7. The moon hung in orbit like a wounded animal, its once bright cities now nothing but scorched glass and collapsed towers. Great gouges carved the landscape where Dominion beams had swept through. Admiral Valentine stood at the Revenant's forward viewport, jaw clenched. Scan for life, she ordered. A tense silence followed. Then a sensor officer spoke, voice hollow. Ma'am, I'm detecting a few pockets. Small. Dozens. Maybe. Valentine closed her eyes for a moment. Prepare SAR teams, she said softly. Every survivor matters. But the truth was unavoidable. Krylon 7 was gone. The landing teams. Dropships screamed through the cracked atmosphere, deploying Terran rescue forces into the shattered remains of the capital. Ash fell like snow. Hydra drones hovered overhead, scanning for Dominion traps. A Marine captain's voice crackled through comms. We've reached the Crystal Market. It's completely destroyed. Any hostiles? Negative. Dominion forces withdrew after the assault. No lingering units detected. Keep searching, Valentine replied. Her eyes tracked the holofeed, watching Marines lift rubble, carry civilians, stabilize injuries, and set up emergency shelters. Then, Admiral, we found someone. A battered Krylon officer, gray skin burned, one arm missing, shaking violently, was being carried toward the medship. Rylus Vorn, the man who sent the distress signal. Valentine immediately routed the feed to her console. Lieutenant, she said, voice steady. I'm Admiral Valentine of the Terran Directorate. You're safe now. Rylus coughed, wincing. Safe? They'll be back. They always return. Not while we're here. He stared at her, eyes wide and hollow. You don't understand. Krylon 7 wasn't a target. It was a test run. A cold silence seized the bridge. The data core. Rylus gestured weakly to a sealed container strapped to his chest, scratched, burned, but intact. The Dominion took our central archives, he whispered. All except this. The last data core we managed to strip before the spire fell. A Terran engineer opened the casing. Inside, glowing faintly, was a latticework crystal etched with fractal nodes. Valentine recognized it instantly. A Dominion command record crystal. Rylus nodded. It contains logs, their attack pattern, their fleet numbers, their awakening cycle. Valentine felt a chill coil down her spine. Awakening cycle? Rylus tried to sit up, failed, but forced the words out. They're not returning. They never left. They were dormant, regenerating. And now, his voice cracked. Now the entire Dominion is waking up. Gasps spread around the bridge. Astra 9, the Revenant's onboard AI, accessed the data. Admiral, it said after a fraction of a second. The lieutenant is correct. The horrifying projection. A hollow display unfolded above the center of the bridge. Black stars. Dead systems. Ancient battlegrounds. All lighting up one by one. Astra continued. Dominion signals are activating across 43 systems, with an estimated additional 100 to follow within the next 12 days. A dead silence fell. That's a warfront larger than the entire Terran frontier, the XO whispered. Rylus rasped, they will roll through everything. Every species. Every world. One by one. And what's their primary objective? Valentine asked. Astra's response was immediate. Total galactic sterilization. Operation Shatterpoint. Fear spread across the bridge like a contagion. But Valentine did not flinch. She looked at the projection, worlds dying, fleets awakening, a machine empire rising, and she made a choice. Helm, she said, prepare a route into Dominion territory. The crew stared at her in shock. Ma'am? You want to go toward that? Yes. But the Council. Valentine slammed her hand onto the tactical rail. The Council doesn't get a say in extinction. Astra projected a highlighted point deep in Dominion space. Admiral, the AI said, there is one possible strategic target capable of delaying the awakening. Where? A massive superstructure appeared. A planet-sized industrial hive. Black metal. Endless forges. Swarming with war constructs. Forge Prime. Rylus trembled violently. That's where they build the Overmind's armies. If you strike it, you could slow them. Maybe even stop them. Valentine nodded slowly. Then we strike it. The bridge grew silent, heavy. Humanity was about to do what every species in the galaxy feared. They were marching straight into the heart of the most ancient, most unstoppable machine empire ever built. The galaxy watches in terror. Across the Council's communication network, panic spread. The humans are mobilizing their deadliest fleet, without permission. They're going to provoke the Dominion. If they lose, the galaxy falls. If they lose. Valentine watched the stars ahead and whispered to herself. We won't lose. The Admiral's command. She pointed at the map. Set course for Forge Prime. Full stealth until we reach enemy territory. The bridge hummed with raw, electric fear. But also admiration. The Midnight Fleet pivoted, engines burning silently as they slipped into formation. Begin preparations, Valentine said. For Operation Shatterpoint. The galaxy didn't know it yet, but humanity had just declared war on oblivion itself. Rip space tore open like a wound in reality, and the Midnight Fleet slipped out into darkness. Not the silent dark of space, but the engineered dark of the Obsidian Dominion. No stars. No signals. Just a region of dead light, as if something had devoured the cosmos. And at its center, Forge Prime, a planet-sized industrial colossus, wrapped in black obsidian plating, glowing with rivers of molten metal. Vast furnace towers spat streams of fire into space. Mechanical tendrils the length of continents shifted and reconfigured endlessly. It did not look built. It looked grown. And inside its core pulsed the neural heart of the Dominion Overmind. Admiral Aria Valentine and her fleet had arrived at the beating center of an apocalypse. The stillness before the storm. On the Revenant's bridge, quiet tension coiled like a compressed spring. Cloaking stable, reported the stealth officer. We are invisible to Dominion scans, so far. Astra 9, the ship's AI, hovered as a shimmering avatar. Admiral, it said, Forge Prime is operating at 42% activation. If we destroy it now, before full awakening, Dominion reinforcements may collapse. And if we fail? The XO asked. Astra did not hesitate. Then the galaxy will experience total extinction within 14 days. No one breathed for a moment. Then Valentine spoke, voice steelhard. Then failure is not on the table. She turned to her fleet map. Execute Phase 1. Across the formation, Terran warships disarmed lights, cut emissions to zero, and drifted silently toward the superstructure like ghosts. The Dominion awakens. When the first human ship crossed the asteroid boundary, Forge Prime reacted. Not with alarms. Not with movement. With awareness. The Overmind's presence spread like cold static across every frequency. Not sound, but a feeling. Organics detected. Unauthorized. Intrusion protocols initiated. Purge beginning. The darkness around Forge Prime shimmered. Then thousands, tens of thousands, of Dominion war constructs erupted from the superstructure. Jet-black machines, razor-edged and silent, swarmed into space like a hive disturbed. The Midnight Fleet had been spotted. Valentine slammed forward her command baton. Phase 2, engage. The battle ignites. The Revenant's super-heavy particle lances fired first. Beams the color of dying stars carved through the Dominion swarm, ripping apart war drones by the hundreds. Explosion after explosion lit the void. Hydra squadrons launch. Thousands of AI-linked Terran interceptors swarmed out, their formation shifting every millisecond in perfect synchrony. They tore through the Dominion drones like serrated wind. The Dominion reacted instantly. Gigantic obsidian war shards detached from Forge Prime, autonomous capital-class murder machines with enough weaponry to sterilize continents. Energy beams flashed across the void. One Terran cruiser disintegrated. Another split apart in molten fragments. A third took a glancing hit and spun wildly. But Terran gunners returned fire with terrifying precision. Solstice batteries. Fire. The fleet's solar lance weapons activated. White beams, thin as needles, powerful as supernovas, speared into the war shards, piercing straight through them. Dominion capital units crumpled like wet paper. But for every one destroyed, 10 more emerged. The bridge shook violently as multiple impacts struck the Revenant's shield. Shields holding at 91%. Admiral, we can't withstand a prolonged conflict. I know, Valentine said. That's why we're not here to win a battle. She pointed toward the massive map of Forge Prime. We're here to end a war. The strike team. Within the Revenant hangar, the elite Terran strike squad assembled. Exosuits humming, weapons locked, explosives armed. Their mission: to infiltrate Forge Prime's core and plant the Resonance Null Bomb, a device designed to collapse the Dominion's quantum neural lattice. Agent Lyra Cade, the strike team captain, saluted as Valentine approached. "Ma'am," she said, "we'll get it done." Valentine placed a hand on her shoulder. Her voice softened. "Your team will be walking into the heart of a god made of metal. You understand?" Cade smiled grimly. "Then we'll rip out its heart." Astra's avatar appeared at Valentine's side. "Admiral, I will accompany the strike team. My processing power will be necessary to interface with the Dominion core." Valentine nodded. "To all of you," she said, her voice echoing through the hangar. "Humanity stands because people like you walk into darkness." The strike shuttle launched. Straight toward Forge Prime. The descent into the machine Leviathan. The shuttle burned through a storm of Dominion fire. Shields flared. Armor melted. But it survived long enough to breach the superstructure. The interior was a horror. Endless mechanical spines twisted like petrified serpents. Rivers of molten alloy surged through conduit. Machine golems clung to the walls like spiders of black steel. A whispered chorus rippled through the structure. Organic contamination. Begin sterilization. The strike team plunged deeper, carving a path through waves of Dominion Guardians. Explosions. Gunfire. Screams. Until finally, they reached the core chamber, a colossal sphere of obsidian crystal, suspended by braided neural tendrils, pulsed with black light. Astra floated forward. "Admiral," it transmitted, "we have reached the heart." On the Revenant, Valentine exhaled. "Then finish it." A voice older than empires. As Astra interfaced with the core, a deep, resonant tremor shook the chamber. The Overmind itself spoke. "Terrans, you are anomaly. You do not submit. You do not break. Evolution ends with you." The strike team braced for battle. Dominion constructs poured into the chamber. Cade roared over comms. "We're planting the bomb now. The final charge begins." As Forge Prime's guardians flooded the halls, the Midnight Fleet pushed deeper into the battle. Valentine's voice boomed over the fleet-wide channel. "All ships, protect the strike team at all costs." Humanity's deadliest fleet surged forward, guns blazing. Dominion warshards converged, blocking the path. The void lit with the fury of 1,000 suns. Humanity pushed. The Dominion resisted. Forge Prime screamed. And somewhere inside that metal leviathan, a Terran bomb began to charge. The battlefield above Arvex 9 was a graveyard of drifting metal and ruptured hulls, most of them not human. From the bridge of the THV Beowulf, Admiral Rourke watched the tactical map shrink as more enemy signatures winked out. The hostile armada, once arrogant, once confident they would make a display out of primitive Terrans, was in ruins. But they still had one last monstrous card left. The scanners trembled as a new mass warped into view. A ship the size of a small moon. A super dreadnought. The Harbinger class, built to erase civilizations. Captain Lyra Arvin, trembling but standing strong beside Rourke, whispered. That ship killed my people. It ended 3 colonies." Rourke didn't flinch. "Then we end it." The Harbinger unleashed a gravitational lance, space bending visibly as beams tore across the void. Smaller ships evaporated in seconds. Rourke slammed his fist down. "All Terran dreadnoughts, formation Ragnarok. All carriers, launch the Ares strike wings." The Terran fleet moved with impossible precision, every vessel locking into a war formation that most species believed was a myth. Something humans would never dare to use outside simulations. Now they were using it without hesitation. The battle crashed into full inferno. Ares strike fighters streaked through collapsing spacetime. Terran rail cannons thundered. The experimental Darkstar weapons pulsed with star-killing fury. Every war doctrine humanity had ever forged over centuries of blood and sorrow came alive at once, and the Harbinger began to crack. But the enemy commander opened a system-wide channel, his voice soaked in panic and disbelief. "This is impossible. You're humans, your worlds are weak. You should not wield this power." Rourke answered calmly. "You attacked someone who once helped one of ours. You threatened a friend of humanity. You gave us motive." The Harbinger prepared its final attack, its reactor overloading, ready to explode with enough force to take the system with it. The bridge fell silent. Lyra whispered, "We're too close, we can't outrun that." Rourke turned to her, steady and fearless. "No. But we can stop it." He gave one order. "All ships, deploy the Bastion shield." The entire Terran fleet linked reactors, weapons, and quantum cores into a single defensive grid, something no other species had ever attempted without tearing itself apart. The blast hit. A starborn hurricane. A supernova's fury compressed into a single strike. And the Terran fleet held. When the light faded, the Harbinger was gone, just ashes and drifting fragments. The Bastion shield flickered out, systems failing one by one, but the humans were still alive. Lyra stared in awe and disbelief. How did humanity survive that?" Rourke simply breathed out, finally letting tension fade. "We didn't come to survive. We came to answer a call." Across the galaxy, every nation watched the broadcast of the impossible victory. Terrans standing against an apocalyptic weapon, refusing to retreat, refusing to yield. And the message was clear. When humanity holds the line, war itself learns fear.